Hi, how's everyone? Uh, Good to be back here again. It's been a year since our first book was published and launched in July 22nd, 2013. 1 year has passed on so quickly, and now here I am again talking to you. All right, it's been a while since I last made any videos. So today, we'd just like to, recap. Uh, just like to maybe give an overview of what happened over the last 1 year. To be honest, really nothing much happened career-wise, family-wise. Uh, of course, we are very blessed. We are very thankful that everyone is in a healthy condition. And my son now is getting 1 year older and enjoying my time with him a lot. But yeah, today I want to talk about how we can best position ourselves, right? Whether you're in Malaysia or in Australia, right? For those of you who are in Australia, all right, um, you know, I think I've been here 10 years, right? So to realize that coming to Australia might not necessarily be the good thing, or might not necessarily be the best thing that might that will happen to you. So coming to Australia, maybe we think that we have a safety net and all those things, social welfare. But end of the day, we just come to realize that this thing will never last because of the strain of the economy, and then the unfunded liability is taxing heavily into the reserves of the country. So each year the age pension eligibility age is getting higher and higher. As of now, someone who was born in 1971, right? Someone who was born after 1966, right, will have to wait until age 70 before they can get their pension, right? Previously used to be um, the age used to be in the 60s. So every year is like keep on moving higher and higher and higher. Why? I mean, the writing is on the wall because we cannot afford, right? We cannot afford this, income support payment, this pension anymore, right? The whole population is aging, and the young, the economically productive taxpayers, as every taxpayer is going to support more and more senior citizens, right? So that's why the economy, I mean, that's why we are facing the strain right now. As of 2014, right, this was reported a few months ago, right, the Minister for Social Services, or I don't know what they call that, right, the department that take care welfare services, I think, yeah, Mr. Kevin Andrews, he announced that, for the first time in Australian history, the welfare income support payment has reached $70 billion a year, right, for the first time in history. And he's worried that, the economy cannot sustain this, this such a big, huge, humongous, astronomical amount of $70 billion a year, and it's going to climb higher. Right? It's climbing as we speak. So you really have to think, right? So for those friends, right, for those of you who are still in Malaysia, and those of you who are still contemplating about migrating or still holding up a hope of one day being able to migrate to Australia, um, I think is either you are very rich, right, so that you can live off your interest, right, return on investment, your passive income, right, then you can have a good life here in Australia or anywhere else in the elsewhere in the world as well, for that matter. Either you're very rich, you can come here, or you know if not, it's, I think you're better off working towards another goal rather than working towards the goal of settling down here in Australia. I see a lot of people who are struggling, right? I mean, houses are getting more and more expensive, and they have to live further and further away from the city. Some of them having to travel like 1.5 hours on the train before, they reach their workplace. What kind of life is that? So you're talking about at least 3 hours of commuting to and from, right? To and from work every day, right? So it's not easy. And then the tax rate here, people call it oppressive. Even the Australians, they call it an oppressive tax regime, because they live here, they know, right, how oppressive the government is. Okay, maybe we might have different pictures about how good the Australian government is. Being Malaysians, from a distance we only see the good points of Australia, but really how much really do we know, right? Now we know a bit, right? I think we are still scratching the surface, but it took us 10 years to actually find out the true magnitude of the problem here in Australia. Like, for example, recently the new budget that came out that says that by year 2016 they're going to deregulate the university fees. What it means is that the Australian domestic students, the domestic Australian students will no longer be paying, right, a much lower fees than the international students here in Australian universities today, right? Because the government is going to take away the subsidies. The deregulation is going to happen, right? Why would it happen? Because again, government is running out of money, right? And then they will not give out the loans to student anymore, not from government anymore, not the fee help, not the HECS, right? So that students will have to take loans, study loans, right, from the private sector, which will charge the market interest rates, right? So it's no longer a low interest rate loan for your studies. And once that thing is in place, right, of course you have to pay attention as to when it will take effect. But as of now, they say that this will take effect, this will be implemented in year 2016. So because right now they're paying 3 times, right, 3 times less, 3 times lower than international student fees, right, tuition fees. And when this thing happens in 2016, the university will no longer have the incentive to give privileges to local students. Why would they want to do that? It's a free market, right? It's a market economy, right? So if governments are taking away subsidies, help for all these local students, the university will have to take the money. We have to compensate that loss of subsidies, right, from the government that they're taken away from the students. But they're going to tax it. They're going to charge it on. They're going to slam it on the students. So that means by 2016, the students will pay the same fees as the international students. That means the fees will go up 3 times than they're paying right now, because the university will have no incentive to charge them less. If university were to charge them less, they're going to find a harder time, find it much harder to get into a university, right? Because they will have higher, entry requirements for them. Because the university will definitely do not want them, right, at the expense of the international students who are willing to pay more, right? So there's really, a lot of Malaysians are saying that they're coming here for the for the children's education, right? And this thing is getting less and less, in terms of relevance. This point is becoming less and less relevant now, right? So by 2006, if all you do here is all you're concerned about migrating here to Australia is for your children's education, by 2016, it's gone, all right? Zero reason to come here, all right? Now, there's another reason I think very important. If you're in your 30s or 40s, at the height of your, career, all right, at the, most advantageous age in your life, at the prime time of your life, right, you're leaving behind a promising career in Malaysia. And what will happen to you? All right, you will lose a lot of opportunity, you get more frustrated, you stay home, you spend more time with your children, but less quality time, because in your mind you know you can do more, but because you think that by coming here you are doing your children a favor. On that note, not so much of a favor as well, because the education here is really, Mickey Mouse, right, compared to the Asian system where they have to do more, all right, which is more reflective of the reality today, you see. But the Australian system really never changed, maybe for the last 2-3 generations, but 3 generations ago the world was very different, right? You don't have to look back very far. Just before 1980s, right? China, majority of people are still cycling to work, all right? They don't know what McDonald's is. They have never been to McDonald's in their life, right? And a lot of Southeast Asian economies are still agricultural. Malaysia at that time was just industrializing, right? The Look East policy and all that. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is, back in those days, right, when you talk about the international economy, right, you're basically talking about the Western economy, right? So it's like the rest of the world are providing all the raw materials, commodities, resources, or manufactured goods. Some of them, like Japan or Taiwan, Hong Kong, right, producing the toys and electronic goods for the consumption of the Western economy, right? So we are not really competing with them. But today things are different. Like Thomas Friedman, he said, the world is flat. The world is flat. Whether you're in Bangalore, Kuala Lumpur, Manila, right, Beijing, you're competing with the young graduates from New York, from London, right, on the same level playing field. Of course, times are hard now, So that's why, in those days, the education system is such, so lax, so relaxed, because they didn't have to compete with the rest of the world. The rest of the world is like serving them, right? But right now, not only are the rest of the world serving them, but also competing with them. Yes, the Indians, they are, calling you sir, your bill account number is such and such. Yes, they're serving you, but at the same time, they are building Infosys, right? They're building Wipro, right? They're competing, right, with the Western world on the same level playing field, right? If you look at Apple, right, they're basically good in marketing, right? A lot of technology really comes from East Asia, which is really ahead in terms of the touchscreen technology. So that's why Apple was able to do so well, because they made use of the technology, in Korea, in Japan, right? So that's why Samsung has everything that Apple has. So it's no longer just a factory for the Western world, right? With factories, but also factories with ideas, with innovations, right? With high technology, the robotics, and so much more. You see. So that's why times are tough, right? So you send your kids here to Australia thinking that you're paying 5 times more than what you're paying now in Malaysia, so that they can get 5 times more, 5 times more benefit from the Australian education system. With due respect, I'm telling you, you are making a big mistake, a huge mistake. Of course, if you are very rich, really it's none of my business, because you can afford it. But if you are like me, right, the middle income, right, or my parents, there are a lot more better alternatives, right, to spend your money. Because right now, you can go to University of Nottingham without paying without paying the UK cost of living, right? Because you can do it right here. Right there, in the comfort of your own hometown, right? In Malaysia, you don't have to go all the way to UK to attend that university. If you want to go to Yale University, you can go right down south right, to National University of Singapore, right, is where Yale has the campus there as well, right? So such is the world today. INSEAD, right, the French institution, the famous place for MBAs, right, the European version of Harvard, is also in Singapore, right? And then we have this, if you want to go to China for education, you don't even have to go to China if you don't feel like, inhaling the polluted air. You can do it also here in Malaysia, right? This Xiamen University is also in Malaysia right now. So there's so much alternatives now that you can spend your money, right? If you come in here, everything is Australian dollars and you are earning your money there in Malaysia, your hard-earned money, if you are not a business owner, right? So you pay 5 times more for the education, but your kids don't get 5 times more salary when they graduate. They still get the same salary as any other graduates or even non-graduates, right? So you have to consider that as well. I know there's a lot of ranting, if you want to call that, but I think it's way more meaningful and dignified, if I may use the word, than propaganda. Propaganda is what the mainstream media does, right? They tell you all the beautiful things that they want you to hear so that you be part of the system and not question the authority. And I hope to make more videos on such topics, to share our thoughts, to get our word across. But on that note, I also want to thank the journalists from Malaysian media, right? Free Malaysia Today, the Star newspaper, and New Straits Times, the new paper in Singapore, right? For the coverage, and even China Press. 谢谢潘友文, 老兄, So all these words, messages, or all these perspectives are never really been covered, right, in the mainstream media, right? Nobody really like to talk about the bad things. Those who came here years ago, came to Australia, they didn't, they won't want to tell you, their own regrets. They didn't want to project themselves as a failure here. Actually, they don't have to take things so personally. Why don't they just share it out with everyone? Because I can assure you, right, many of the migrants here to come, they came here with high hopes, right? 20, 30 years later, they retired. They realize that, this place is even more discriminatory than where they came from, right? I mean, laws are there, laws are in place, but that doesn't stop discrimination from, continuing. It still happens, right? That's why a lot of them get disappointed, but they want to hide their disappointment. They still want to, save face. It's face losing if you tell people that I move up here and then 30 years later you think that it's a wrong mistake, right? But they shouldn't be thinking this way. It's not their mistakes. It's the society, right? The society, right, discriminates, right, wherever you are. So this thing will never change, right? But our life, right, on earth is limited. So we want to find find a space, right, that we can maximize our potential, so that we can pass on more information, more knowledge, more experiences to our children, so that they can have a better future. It's not about, sacrificing our own career for the sake of our children, because if we sacrifice our career, right, our children will have less to learn from us, right? Who do you think educate our children more effectively? Will educate our children more effectively? Actually, it's ourselves, not our, children's teachers or the schools. It's not that. Education is not only about calculus, not about statistics. not about physics or chemistry theories. Education covers more than that. It's about how to survive in this world, how to be more productive, how to, create a better life, how to be more, how to, how to be, how to break away from, the chains that society tie us onto, to make us average, to make us conform, right? To make us run round and round, on the same spot, chasing our own tails, or like a, on a treadmill, like a hamster. Obviously, we can't teach our children if we ourselves don't know what we want in this world, right? Keeping ourselves busy chasing our own tails, right? So that's what a lot of people did, and we made that mistake as well. We came here thinking, we're coming here to have a better future, right? If you look around this place, obviously it looks very good, but just don't look at the superficial, the appearance, because yes, it's very nice, right? But what is so good about this nice scenery if over here you are not progressing as a human being? You're not developing yourself intellectually, professionally, because you're not given that opportunity, right? Because of in the past, I was talking about glass ceiling. If you watch YouTube, you type in 移民澳洲好咩玻璃天花板, right? So you will have a clip. You see a clip of me talking about this glass ceiling, right? I was talking to a China press reporter, right, Jeffrey Pua, telling him about the situation of glass ceiling here in Australia. Glass ceiling is the term they use that actually is like that actually stop us from getting promoted to higher positions in a corporate world, because of implicit hidden discrimination, right? They don't call it as such because the law say it's illegal, right, to discriminate based on race, based on the cultural background of the employee, that are not relevant to the job performance. All right. So we were talking about glass ceiling, and guess what? After some months later, I read another article. This is an article by an Australian scholar, right, with a Thai heritage. Right? His name is Tim, and Tim South. Much longer than that. The family name is actually a Thai surname, right? I think he might have been born here in Australia, right? It's 100% Australian, right? If you hear him speak, you never know he has a Thai background, right? But he has a Thai background. He looks Thai, right? He mentioned about the term bamboo ceiling, and then I type in bamboo ceiling. True enough, on Wikipedia, right, that word was used much earlier, right, before Tim, right? A word that is coined to refer to all the discriminatory practices that are happening in the Western world, right? That is done towards the Asian. That's why we call it the bamboo ceiling. So when I was talking to the China press journalist, I was talking about the glass ceiling that was holding us back. But I was wrong, because it was not the glass ceiling that hold us back. True enough, when I type in glass ceiling, articles about how the women were not able to climb the corporate ladder as high as as well as the their male counterparts in Australia. So true enough, glass ceiling is more for Anglo or the Aussie Australian, the average Australian white women, right, who are not given the same opportunity as their male counterparts, right? So we were not held back by the glass ceiling. We were actually held back by the bamboo ceiling. So between us and the glass ceiling, right, we actually have this bamboo ceiling problem first to overcome before we even hit the glass ceiling. That is the reality, my friend. So think about that, right? some of you might think that, okay, here in Australia, my kids can train to become a professional. I know he's very scholastic, he's very academic, but he's probably not given the same opportunity in Malaysia. But maybe you should consider Singapore or other places, right? Who are more, who have more opportunities and less discriminating against, the Chinese race, or the Chinese Malaysian race, or the Malaysian race, or the Asian race, as a whole. I know Japan is not very open society, but there are other places, you don't have to always go to Japan, America, Australia, all right? There are other places you can consider. Indonesia, Thailand, right? Malaysia, Singapore, right? Which is much more meritocratic than Australia. Okay, so yes. So broaden your alternatives. I mean, the world is so big, and our life is so short. Our life is too short to just focus on a few countries. Oh, I want to go to Australia. Why? To build a better future for my children. I'll tell you one thing, we Southeast Asians have this one disease, in Australia, when I see a European, right, or I see a European student, I usually ask them, have you been to, say for example, they come from Poland, I will ask if they have been to other countries before they come to Australia. And most of them will say, oh yes, I've been to Denmark, I've been to Germany, for the Polish student, I've been to France and Italy before I came down here to Australia, right? A Swiss friend, he told us he'd been to England, he'd been to Germany before he came down. Before he went to Vietnam, and later on came to Australia. You see, you try that with people you meet who comes from Europe next time, all right? And the chances, I want to tell you first, all right, is that most of them have been to 2 or 3 different European countries before they come down to where they are. Say if you meet them in Malaysia, okay? But if you happen to meet some Asians, all right, say Indonesian or Filipinos or Thai or Singaporeans, if they've been to any other countries in ASEAN, all right, before they come down to Australia, chances are, most of them have never been out of their own country in ASEAN, all right? But they come all the way to Australia. So that's how messed up we are, all right? Initially, it was it was caused by the colonial masters. The Dutch for the Indonesians, the British for Malaysians, the French for